goes on the internet, and then I'll read out some stuff, and then we'll get started. Thanks. So make me live then, please, James. Good morning and welcome. My name is Councillor Smart and I'm the chair of this committee. I'd like to welcome you all to Cambridge City Council's Planning Committee meeting taking place at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, the 29th of March. Other members of the committee, I'll let them introduce themselves. From Rob over here.
Yeah. Councillor Dryden, representing Cherry Hinton Ward.
Councillor Katie Thornborough, Petersfield.
Jenny Gawthrop Wood, King's Hedges.
Katie Porra, Market Ward.
Jennifer Pagecroft, Queen Edith Ward.
Thank you, councillors. And the officers permanently at table for this meeting are the Interim Development and Community Planning Compliance Manager, Toby Williams, Legal Advisor, Keith Barber, the C Manager, Claire Tunnicliffe, and Producer, James Goddard. Someone's got their microphone making a noise. Is that me or somebody else? Oh, on Teams. If somebody on Teams can sort of like turn their microphone off because it's making a bit of a noise. If you could all mute, please. Thank you very much. Thank you. Other officers and public speakers will join us throughout the course of the meeting, and I will introduce them at the start of the relevant agenda items. Copies of the agenda can be found on the City Council's website under Committee Meetings, Minutes and Agendas, and also in this room in the corner by the door on paper. Please try and refer to specific page numbers within the agenda if you're referring to a specific paragraph or plan, and also to the item number for people like me on computers. Can I remind all those present of the importance of using the microphones at all times when speaking? Please speak close to and clearly into the microphone. Please ensure you're switched off or silenced any other devices you have so that they do not interrupt the proceedings. When you're invited to address the meeting, please make sure your microphone is switched on. When you finish addressing the meeting, please turn off your microphone immediately. Speak slowly and clearly, and please do not talk over or interrupt anyone. If anyone has any problems hearing me throughout the meeting, please alert me by waving their hands or advising a council officer. We aim to take a 30-minute lunch break between noon and 2 p.m. Please can those present in the council chamber note that everything on your desk, including your laptop screen, is likely to be broadcast at some point. The camera follows the microphone being switched on, so that councillors and officers are requested to wait a couple of seconds before speaking to allow the camera to catch up. Please raise your hand if you wish to speak. Please can those participating in the meeting via the live stream indicate that you wish to speak via the chat column or raised hand option. Please do not use the chat column for any other purpose. The meeting chat is neither confidential nor private and can be subject to an FRI or DPA request. That's Freedom of Information or Data Protection Act request. Make sure that your device is fully charged and that you switch your microphone off unless you are invited to speak. Please use a headset if available when speaking and hold the microphone close to your mouth. Could public speakers turn their cameras off until we come to the application we have registered you to speak about? If a report officer drops out from the committee due to poor broadband signal, the senior officer present will take over their presentation and respond to questions. Excuse me. The process for each planning application will be the case officer will give a brief introduction to his or her report. Registered public speakers will be invited to have their say. There will be 3 minutes for those speaking in support and 3 minutes for those speaking against, unless self-advised otherwise. The committee manager will ring a bell when you have 30 seconds remaining. Once public speakers have addressed the committee, their speaking time is over. Public speakers are unable to join in with the councillor debate. The committee will then discuss and debate the item and may ask questions of the case officer. At the end of deliberation, I will ask members to vote on the officer's recommendation by a show of hands. Only those present in the chamber can vote or propose or second recommendations. For the comfort of councillors, officers and the public, I may choose to call short breaks during the proceedings. If councillors or officers require a break at any point, please indicate to me and I will halt proceedings at the next convenient opportunity. Moving on to agenda Apologies first. So we have apologies from Councillor Collis, who else? Councillor Bennett and Councillor Bagent. So we still have enough to make decisions. There's 6 of us here, so that's good. Are there any people standing? Okay, so moving on to agenda item 3, please could councillors declare if they have any declarations of interest and also identify which application their declaration relates to. Councillor Pora.
Thank you. Just to confirm, item 9, the Brunswick Walk, that is in my ward, and there have been some discussions about it, but I've not been party to them. It's been dealt with by other ward councillors, so my discretion is unfettered. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dorset-Wood.
So item 8, Roseford Road, is round the corner from where I live, although it's not my ward, but I'm unfettered. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Agenda item 4 of 7th of Feb and 1st of March meetings have been submitted for approval. Online I can only see, is it one set of minutes or are they both there? But it's on the other one, is it?
Yeah.
That always confuses me. Okay, yeah, they're there. Good. Okay, so both sets of minutes have been submitted for approval. Can I sign those as a true record, councillors? Thank you very much. I'll do that now. That's the admin done then, good. So moving on to the first item of the day, item 5, Green End Road. So case officer is Nick Yeager. Nick, you're on Teams, aren't you, I think? Yeah. So no speakers on this item. So Nick, if you're ready to present it then, we're all ready. Okay, so I've heard that the presenting officer, Nick Yeager, is having IT issues, so it might be that we present the item here instead. I'll just check.
Could change the order if you want, Chair, and take the next item and come back. Mr. Williams to introduce it. Or just adjourn for a few minutes.
I think we'll adjourn for a few minutes and do it in order because there's people online waiting to listen to this item, and if we do it in a different order, that will muck them up for their day. So let's just hold on for a few minutes. So adjourn the meeting, and then we'll come back in, I don't know, 5:15 or so, 5 minutes. So we'll have an adjournment. okay? Yeah, good, thank you. So if you want to make us live again then please, James, thank you. Thank you. So we had a slight adjournment there because we had a technical issue. Hello, Nick, you're back. So Nick Yeager is the presenting officer for the first item of the day, item 5. There are no speakers for this item, so Nick, if you'd like to present the item, then please.
Okay, I would just like to check with the chair that my screen is shared correctly.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Nick. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is at 196 Green End Road. This is with the construction of 9 apartments, comprising of 8 one-bedroom flats and 1 studio flat, along with a ground floor commercial space, car cycle parking, and associated infrastructure. This is a resubmission. This application is brought to committee because of third-party comments in contrary of the officer's recommendation. The officer's recommendation to planning committee is to approve. So updates. Condition 8 has been amended to no development above ground level shall commence until details of ventilation scheme. Condition 29 has been removed. Cambridge County Archaeology recommented on the scheme on the 23rd of March that archaeological trenching took place at the beginning of the month, and therefore, considering the work already undertaken, we would no longer recommend the condition. And then also there's a typing error on para 8.58. This is within the space standards table on unit 9. The number of the bed spaces for the floor plan for unit 9 shows a single bed space and not 2. This is my typing error. The proposed unit meets the space standards requirements as 37.1 meters squared. The difference in size is still 0.1 meters squared. So it was a typing error. I put 2 in the bed spaces when it should have been 1 there. So the location plan, that's a laser pointer. Location plan, the application site is shown here within the red. It's on the corner of Green End Road and Scotland Road, located here. The surrounding area, there's Methodist Church located opposite. There's some commercial units located here, and the wider context around here is residential. There were 2 existing dwellings on this site that will be removed in placement for the apartment block and the commercial unit. So the recent relevant planning history of this site is that in November, a scheme on this application site was refused. This had a similar proposal with 9 apartments that we have being assessed today. And then previously, there has also been permission granted on this site on the 10th of February 2021. So the difference between the approval and what was and what we have before us is that this scheme incorporates 9 apartments rather than the previously approved 7 apartments. I will go into and show some differences within the plans of what's been approved and what was last refused in November, and I can show how the amendments presented within this application has overcome the concerns, officer concerns. So the previous reasons for refusal, which is currently being assessed at appeal rather, is that it fails to provide communal amenity space for the occupiers. The design of the upper 3rd story would lead to an over-dominating upper roof form within the design context of the area, and concerns were raised on the inadequate cycle storage. The roller shutters would face upon a footpath that could be accessed by non-residents, and the scheme has a roller shutter spanning a proportion of the rear elevation that is likely to be impractical for use and could lead to theft, given that this part of the site is poorly surveyed. So on this resubmission, the revised proposal now includes a communal roof terrace on the 2nd floor. The design has been amended to include an upper 1.1 metre parapet wall in line with what's been approved. And the resubmission proposal contains a lockable gated access for pedestrian side gate to the bike storage in the flats, which will be accessed via a key fob system. Further, roadless shuttered doors has been divided into 4 areas, which are shown to be activated by this key fob system, therefore improving the security aspects. So the existing site plan shows here with the 2 dwellings that are to be removed. I believe these dwellings have been removed, and they could do that from the previous consent they've got approval for, the extent consent. However, this site plan shows what was existing. So what we have before us is a commercial unit located here. There is 8 visitor cycle stands located here, a disabled space here, 4 car parking spaces located here, 2 of which will be used for the commercial use and 3 for the residents. Bin storage located here, cycle storage located there. So there would be 12 here for residents and 4 for the commercial unit. This amendment in the resubmitted scheme has shown this lockable gate accessed by the key fob system, what helps to improve the security when accessing here to the cycle storage. Showing some of the floor plans. Floor plans look mostly similar on the ground and first floor to what was previously seen at the last committee in November. The commercial space located here. Again, mentioned the cycle storage there. Flat 1, flat 2, each with a private amenity area, and bin storage here. The first floor plans show flat 3, flat 4, flat 5, and flat 6, again with private amenity areas. The difference comes on the second floor plan. It now contains a communal terrace, community amenity area, that will be accessed here. So flat 7 has been slightly altered in size to allow for that, but it now utilises the on-site space, increasing the well-being for the occupiers, that there is more outdoor space on the site, overcoming one of the refusal reasons. Proposed elevations, a parapet wall has now been included, shown here and along here on this ridge here, which helps to reduce the dominating impacts of the proposed design within the street scene, noting it's on a fairly highly visible corner plot. This area here shows that with the communal terrace, which will be located here, and also the cycle storage, instead of having a roller shutter spanning the length of the wall here, it's been divided into 4, which is shown to be accessed from a key fob system, which you can see to be an improvement. So I wanted to just show some comparisons of what we have seen on this site. So this is what has been approved. So this is this 7-bedroom apartment, and the commercial unit located here, a cycle storage area here, a ground floor flat, car parking here and here. The floor plans show similar. That's the ground floor. I wanted to point out that on the second floor it contained a roof terrace, which was approved, which now we have similar in this application. And the design also contained this parapet wall, which helped to improve the context. So this resubmission has gone back to similar aspects of what was approved in terms of design, and certainly the communal terrace. I wanted to show the differences of what we last saw in November as well, of what was refused. On the floor plan, it doesn't show the lockable gate, the key fob access system, which prevents, which it helps to improve the security of the cycle storage. It also didn't contain the rooftop terrace, which was one, again, a refusal reason. And lastly, it didn't contain the parapet wall. I have got some comparisons first. So what we have now draws comparisons to what was previously approved in terms of its design, with that parapet wall on a similar height, what's been approved, which has been shown in the purple, and here this is what's been approved, and this is what we've got in front of us being assessed. I have got some proposed visuals, so this is what we have being assessed today. In terms of the design, you notice the parapet wall helps to conceal that dominating impact, and this was what was previously refused, which didn't contain that, which led to the concerns on the design. So the parapet wall has helped to reduce that upper floor. Some proposed sections. I wanted to include this because third-party comments have been received in objection to the scheme, noting the concerns of the communal terrace, I think with noise and disturbance being raised and also overlooking impacts. I wanted to say that the parapet wall is 1.1 meters here, and then there is obstacle glazing would be located behind it. That's been conditioned. The use of the space is residential, and therefore there is no evidence that this would be used for partying or antisocial behaviour, as concerns have been raised before, concerns are raised. In any event, environmental health legislation protects you from such impacts. And here are some photographs of what the existing site. Finally, in the planning balance conclusion, the reasons for it's a high density accommodation with an area of previously developed brownfield site, a regeneration to the area, contribution to the local economy, resubmitted scheme now provides on-site communal amenity space and appropriately designed within the surrounding context. The scale of the design and scale of the development is now considered a high quality, which will enhance the character of the area, and it's considered to have secure, accessible cycle storage, and therefore officers' recommendation to committee is approval subject to conditions. And that is the end of my presentation, so I will stop sharing my screen and go back to the chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Was there anything on the amendment sheets? There is, isn't there? Condition 8. Did you mention that already?
I did.
Start, was it?
So at the start, I can restate. Condition 8 has been amended to include no development above ground level shall commence, rather than no development shall commence. And condition 29, which is the archaeological condition, Cambridge County Council Archaeological, we commented on the scheme that archaeological trenching took place at the beginning of the month in March, and therefore considering the work done, they no longer suggest a condition. And then there's a typing error on para 8.58, space standard stable. Within unit 9, the number of bed spaces should be in that table should be 1 and not 2. The proposed unit meets the space standard requirements as 37.1. The difference is still 0.1 meters squared.
So that, Nick. Okay, right, councillors debate. Councillor Thornborough.
There's a couple of things that I didn't pick up before, but I'd like to raise now. I don't know if that's okay. One is there's no reference, the additional 2 flats has, I think, created a single aspect issue. But what I was suggesting is that if this is approved, that we should put in another condition about complying with Part O of the building regulations in the same way we have a condition about M42. I would also suggest, I would like to ask the officer if they've actually included how the letterboxes will be secure and accessible for flats, and if that hasn't actually been raised, again, a condition regarding policy 57G to ensure that is provided. Thank you.
Normally collect up some questions, but that's quite specific, I think. So, Nick, can you just respond to Councillor Thornborough's questions first, please?
I think we can include, they haven't provided the details, I don't believe, on the letterboxes, so we can include that as a condition. Thank you for that. And again, we can include the single aspect condition as well. We can add them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right, any more? Councillor Gawthorpe-Wood.
Just a point of clarification. On the current plans, is the roof terrace slightly smaller than the plans that were previously granted? That was the first thing. And the cladding for the top floor, is there a condition or anything so that it's not, I mean, the refused plans, you know, were quite dark coloured. And as this is a much more modernist design, is the top floor going to be white, or do you need to condition that? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Pora.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Gawthorpe just picked up two of my questions, so that's great. I won't ask them again. Could I just check, in terms of access to the roof space, because I know residents have been worried, I'm assuming that is only accessible, you know, with people with key fobs, and also whether it's appropriate for us to put a condition or an informative just to remind the owners to make clear to tenants that is restricted to residents and their visitors only rather than anyone else. And secondly, could you just talk a little bit more about the cycle doors, because I didn't quite understand how, because obviously they're divided into 4 now as opposed to 1, but could you just explain a little bit more about how they're accessed, or whether sort of each house has one space within the 4 doors, whether they can open all 4 if they need to put more bikes in? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Pagecroft.
Thank you, Chair. On this plan, have you taken away the balconies to give them the roof terrace? Because would that balance out the amenity space? Because I can't see any plans on there for balconies for the flats at all, which personally I think a lot of flat dwelling people would prefer a balcony to be able to put their own chairs out in privacy without having to clamber up in the lift or stairs up to the roof terrace. And EV charging, there is going to be an EV charging point from one of the car parking spaces. But I say, is there going to be an EV charging point?
Councillor, I've got a couple of questions. So just the roof terrace has been referred to already. So could you just show us the route to the roof terrace, say from the front door with your pointer? Is it accessible? For example, with someone that uses a wheelchair, in terms of the points that are made by residents, overlooking seems to be an issue. What's the closest garden or house next to it? If you could show us that with your pointer. Just also note that there is no affordable housing in this scheme. It's been cleverly, the number of units are just below the number that need to trigger affordable housing. It's also got, it meets space standards, but I would point out that space standards are not a target, they are a minimum. So the developer here has clearly chosen to take space standards as a target. They meet, say, space standards practically exactly. They don't go above it hardly at all by, you know, fraction of a square metre. So it's acceptable, but it could be better. And what was the other thing? Yeah, I mean, the other thing to say, I suppose, positively, it's a reasonably good-looking scheme. I think seems to address the previous concerns for the previous scheme. So on balance, I think there's something to be said for it. Councillor Gawthorpe-Wood, I think you wanted to add something else before I get back to the officer.
Well, I don't know whether this is appropriate, and it's to do with the use of the terrace, which doesn't seem particularly large, but should there be a management plan saying, you know, I mean, it's like using a garden, that if there was a garden, you know, it's difficult to restrict people on how they use it and the amount and the noise they're making, but perhaps, you know, 11 o'clock, there should be, you know, no noise coming, or no loud music, or is that an environmental health matter? Thank you.
Yeah, good. Okay, so back to you then, Nick, if you could address those questions and points, please.
Yep, I will do. I will also share my screen because it might help to explain some of the points as well. And go back to my presentation. So I think there was a question that is the communal roof terrace smaller than what was last approved? If you look at the difference here, that's what was last approved, this area. And we now have an area such as this. So it does appear to be slightly smaller. However, the residents are, this would have, I believe, 17 residents, as previously there was 22 on the approved scheme. So it is slightly smaller, but slightly less residents. There was also a question as well on balconies. Each flat has its own private
Nick,
amenity
sorry to
balcony.
interrupt, but are you able to use your laser pointer, the red dot?
Yeah,
Only
of course.
councillors have to look at screens here in the chamber, and they need to be able to see that from a distance.
Yeah, absolutely. Each flat has its own private balcony or private amenity area, as shown just where the pointer is hovering over. Here and here, and this is the communal area. So yes, they all have their private amenity spaces, and then there is the communal space as well for additional space for their well-being. There was a question on the route, how to get to the communal terrace. So there is a lift located here. So these are the front doors here, and there's the rear door there. And there's a lift here, and the lift can take you up to the roof terrace here, and there's stairwells as well, but they go up here. However, the lift is for any disability access as well.
Just before we go on then, Nick, can I just confirm that it's level access all the way, then there's no stepped access between where you've got your red dot there, the corridor, and going outside onto an outside area? So often that bit there, stepped access to keep water out. And also that door is wide enough to get a wheelchair through. Looks like it's about 800 or 900 to me. That's not big enough. But
I would have to go and measure that to make sure that is definitely wide enough. I suppose we could condition to make sure that door is wide enough, and the step onto the roof terrace would be so. I did consult the access officer, who said the floor plan of the second floor was acceptable. That is stated in the report. But any concerns of that, we can maybe include that as a condition to make sure it is level and the doorway is access is the same level. I think there was also a comment, a question on the materials. The materials will be provided under condition 3. We have stated about the materials for the external appearance of it. EV charging, condition, hold on. Condition 12 covers EV charging, to make sure there was an EV charging point on site. I think there was also a point on any overlooking impacts and what would the nearest resident be. I'll just go back to the site plan, the laser pointer. So this is the nearest resident located here, and the communal terrace would be located roughly on top of there, which is why we have located as such here, which is why we've included the 1.8 obscure glazing to go around the perimeter of the site and include the the parapet wall of 1.1 meters. I think the environmental health legislation does help to protect any noise and disturbance as well. And this would only be accessed by residents as they've got this key fob systems going in here to access it. I hope that provides some clarification on the points. Go back to the chair. Thank you.
Anything missed out? Any more questions? Yeah, Councillor Poorer.
Just one about the cycle access door. Also,
Yeah.
picking up on Councillor Gawthorpe Wood's point, condition 3 obviously asks officers to check the materials, but I think what we're saying is we want the upper storey to be of a light colour. So I don't know, or at least not as dark as the one in the refusals. So I don't know whether we have the colour scheme proposed already, but certainly my feeling is I'd be more comfortable if condition 3 made clear to whichever officer is signing that off that the expectation is that that won't be a very, very dark shade. If that's, I think that's probably what Councillor Gawthorpe Wood was saying. Yeah, she's nodding as well. Yeah.
Councillor, I mean, that could come back to Chair, Vice Chair and Spokes for a committee, what's light and what's dark, but if it comes back to those people, they can make a judgment. Is that going to work? Case officer, I'm not quite sure. Nick, are we going to be able to do that? Because you're going to be able to present a colour in a question by email. Is that going to work?
I will check with Toby on that. Would we, Toby, check on a discharge of condition?
You could give us a rail colour, couldn't you, I suppose, to identify it. Toby, do you want to say anything?
I mean, Chair, I mean, the applicants in the room today, Nick's likely to be continuing to discharge the conditions. I think we could put an informative on the permission to advise on a light colour for that upper level, and I would hope that members could trust officers to discharge accordingly. I don't think it's a matter that needs to come back to Chair and Vice Chair personally.
Are you content with that approach, councillors? Gawthorpe Wood, Horror? Is that okay?
I think my concern was obviously some of these things can take several years to come through by the time it's built, so I just wanted to make sure it wasn't missed, just because obviously one of the prior reasons for refusal was because it was so overbearing with the colour. And obviously I'm sure Nick will do a fantastic job, but obviously if this is a couple of years down the line, I just want to make sure we've got somewhere our concern. I don't mind if it doesn't come to Chair, Vice Chair and Spokes. I just want something to be clear that the plans that we're looking at today are very clearly a kind of lighter shade, and that's what we would be expecting to come through as part of condition 3. So I don't know how Toby and Nick would prefer to address that. Is that okay with you, Councillor Gawthorpe?
I'm content with that. It's just that, we want it sort of highlighted and how it's done. Quite happy for officers to take that forward. Thank you.
Okay, so Toby suggests an informative. Seems to me like that's a sensible approach. Remember, it wasn't just the colour of the material, it's also the amount of material, because you can't see so much with the parapet wall, so that's a factor too in terms of its overbearing nature in the previous scheme. Okay, so we'll do that then, informative. Anything else, councillors, that's cropped up or no? So Gawthorpe Wood, yep.
This is kind of a general point, not specific to this, but access to balconies and M42, is there a requirement that they are wheelchair accessible and that the doors are wide enough and that they're level so a wheelchair could go back out onto the private amenity, which in this case is a balcony or terrace?
Nick, can you answer that question then, please?
We have the condition that that it has to be in accordance with M42 that's applied. I think that's condition 27. I know that the access officer reviewed this proposal on the last scheme and was satisfied that it met the access requirements as well. If I may, I believe there was also a question on cycle storage. Chair, I can answer that as well.
Please.
I'll share my screen again. So the question was on sort of clarification, I believe, on the cycle storage. So this scheme has incorporated a lockable gate access via a key fob system. So this is shown here. This wasn't shown before. So I believe residents would walk along here with their bike and tap the gate, pedestrian gate access or such, and be able to go and then use the cycle storage in here. It's also shown split into 4 compartments here that is stated to be accessed via the cultivated circulators, via a key fob system. So again, people on the bikes would go to their required area and tap, and the shutter would open, I believe. There is, so on site, there's 12 residence cycle storage here, like it would be in here, 4 for the commercial unit, and then there is additional 8 located visitor stands out here. So it's considered it meets the cycle requirements, and with sufficient cycle storage. I hope that provides clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. That was you, wasn't it, Councillor? Yeah, okay, good thumbs up, right. One question wasn't answered. I think it was the question of Councillor Goldthorpe Wood. What was it you asked? There was something outstanding. I can't quite remember what it was now. Do you remember, Councillor Goldthorpe Wood? I think you missed one.
Was it that on the M42 access to balconies,
That might have been it, yeah.
which doesn't appear to be included in, it is a requirement, okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we're all good then. So we can have that as, everyone agree, we'll have a condition to get level access for wheelchair. So Toby's let me know that because we have the condition M42, that will apply to the access to the balcony as well. So there's no need for a further condition to enable access for people to get to that balcony. I should just say that if Councillor Bennett was here, she's a bit poorly, I think, today, she will be saying that not everybody in a wheelchair could get to that balcony because some wheelchairs are bigger than others. But there you are. Councillor Goldthorpe Wood.
I've just had the benefit, Councillor Thornborough has shown me the regulations which require step-free access, but it doesn't say anything, as you just said, about wheelchairs and the size of the wheelchairs and whether they're big, although there's a minimum, I think it's 1,500 well, anyway, 1,500 by 1,500, yeah.
Okay, Toby's going to come in on that. Go on, Toby.
I think we're in danger of kind of treading over kind of other legislation as a planning committee. So we've got the reference to M42. The applicants will have to meet that through the building regulations. I think that's as far as we can go in terms of the internal layout of the scheme.
All right, don't want to drag out any longer than it needs to go, but I just remembered what it was, the other thing now, Councillor Goldthorpe Wood, you mentioned a management plan for the use of the roof terrace, which is an interesting idea. And I didn't know, Nick, whether that was of any, because it could be that someone's having a barbecue out there late at night, lots of noise and so on, and neighbours, you know, would be disturbed. So what do you think?
I think we said in the report that the management of it would be governed by the environmental health legislation. We could suggest we can include a management plan condition as well if members, but I would check with Toby on that because I wouldn't want to tread on environmental health legislation.
Councillor Goldthorpe Wood, are you happy to go with the environmental health legislation on it, or would you prefer to see a management plan?
I would be happy to go with the environmental health legislation, although I recognise that it's been one of the objections by local residents. So I'm uncertain about this.
Yeah, me too. I think it's a matter of enforcement as well, isn't it? Who's going to enforce it? So you can have something, but does it actually happen in real life? Toby, were you going to say anything?
I think my view is that generally, you know, residential schemes like this and their use should be compatible with their residential surroundings. I don't think it's necessary. To a degree. It will be enforcing, and if there is any antisocial behaviour, then there's other legislation to deal with it. So my view is it's not necessary in order to grant permission.
All right, you're nodding then, Councillor, so I think we'll go with that. Okay, in that case then, I think if we're all done, we'll go to the vote. Can we hear the recommendation then, please, Toby?
Thanks, Chair. So the recommendation is to approve, subject to the planning conditions as set out in the officer report, with minor amendments to the conditions as drafted, delegated to officers, with an amendment to condition 9, the removal of condition 29, an additional condition with reference to part O, overheating, an additional condition with reference to letterboxes, an additional informative with regard to access to the terrace for residents and guests only, and an additional informative with regard to a light tone of colour being used for the upper level of the building. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, well done, good debate. So all those in favour of that recommendation? Unanimous. So that's passed, thank you very much. Let's just have a couple of minutes break, so we'll come back at sort of like about 3 minutes to 11 for the next item. So if you, I think all the speakers are here, aren't they, for this item? Looks like we're all back here. So if you want to get us started back online, then please, James, if you're able to. So slight technical error at the moment, again.